At Dave Cooper Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right. What if you could design, build faster, smarter, and more precisely than ever before? And what if you could improve not just your business, but lift an entire industry? Today on Dave Cooper Live, we're diving deep into the future of construction with Michael Marzi from HSBCAD, the global powerhouse redefining offsite construction. We'll tackle the big questions. Why isn't production software more widely used in our industry? Is it only for fully automated production? And how can tools like BIM and DFMA not only transform workflows, but also elevate the entire construction industry? Plus, we'll uncover the immediate benefits and tackle the big question, just how complicated is it? With innovations like HSBCAD's parametric modeling and a powerful Revit plugin, this episode is packed with insights you can't afford to miss. But before we hop into all that, we can't do any of this without all of our amazing sponsors and supporting members. So a big shout out to Cobalt Creed and the team with Sean and Tagliata. You want to check out their systems, and also make sure you pay attention to these sponsors as well and give them a big thumbs up. CombiLift is the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers, a leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design service. CombiLift helps companies of all sizes and from every industry maximize the capacity, safety, and efficiency of their warehouse and storage facilities. A big thank you to Paul Short and the team at CombiLift for helping us all to build it better. Visit them at combilift.com. Ready to scale up your offsite construction business? Introducing 4A Constructs, your solution to finding skilled labor for offsite manufacturing. Say goodbye to the headache of recruiting a skilled workforce with hand-selected certified tradesmen that are expertly trained and managed for offsite manufacturing, set crews, and finished crews, ensuring maximum productivity and safety. Unlock the future of skilled workforce development for all of your offsite construction needs. Visit them at 4aconstructs.com. CombiLift. All right. Thanks, everybody. And again, we can't do any of this without all of our supporting members. So please go and say thank you to them. That's the only way we're able to bring all of these informative conversations directly to you so we can build it better. Without further ado, let's bring on Michael Marzi. Michael, how are you, my friend?
Doing good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well. Where in the world are you today?
Awesome. Munich right now. That's where I live for the last 35 years, actually.
Well, you may say you live in Munich, but I seem to see you everywhere in the United States. Every time I go somewhere, There's Michael Marzi. So, Michael, before we get into everything today and we get into what HSBCAD is up to, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or I'm going to have your family members on. And I know that can get quite embarrassing. So, you better spill it all. But you only have a minute and a half to do it. And then we're going to hop into what you're doing today.
You know what? My wife's right next door, so if you want to talk to her, I can bring her on. But that's maybe not as interesting as you think it is. I'm Michael Marzi. I was born and raised in Germany. I live in Munich now. I've been in the graphics and CAD and other software business basically all my life. And in the, to me, still very exciting construction software industry. I'm now in my 10th year. I'm working for HSBCAD, and give you a little background on the company here. The company is actually based in Belgium. It started in 1988 as an engineering company. We're 85 people now, and are active in the most important wood construction markets around the globe. What we do as a business is we program software, we market software, which is targeted and specialized on wood construction. And we go a little deeper in those three pillars that you can see here. We have a tool that helps you designing, we have a tool that helps you manufacturing, and also assembling your wood construction business. My role in this company is business development. My task is to promote HSBCAD, which we think is still the best covered secret in our space. I work, as Dave just said, mostly with our North American team, so I travel quite a bit between Germany, the US, and Canada, attending trade shows and conferences, visiting customers, potential customers, but also work a lot with partners like Hundecker and Weinmann and other machine vendor companies, and a little bit on the marketing side with people like Dave Cooper. And I'm very happy to be on his show today.
Well, you know what? Thank you. We're very happy to have you on the show. You know, Michael, you bring such a wealth of knowledge to this industry just from your background and the different companies that you've worked for and worked with over the years. So I know we have a pretty in-depth conversation. So we're going to hold off on any comments or questions on my end until we get through it. So why don't you walk us through your presentation and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it started, as I said, back in 1988, and three brothers who still own the company per today. Their father had an engineering office, and back in the 80s, they started playing around with computers and created a little software that was able to do some basic calculations. And they've been asked by one of the still leading companies out of Germany, Baufritz, if they could help them create a little software that would help them to do wood construction here. And that's how the whole company started. You see a few pictures here of Baufritz. They are still an HSBCAD customers. We have a close relationship with them and many other clients, because only from them we can literally learn where the industry is going and what tools are needed and what functions and what features are needed and what methods and materials are used. So one of the questions we've been asking us when we continuously asking us ourselves, actually, when we continue developing the product, is who needs a software like this? And to put this in a nutshell, it's all specific wood construction. That's what we are doing, where we have a little light gauge steel module, but that's not far away from our main focus. So we would consider ourselves being in the wood construction space. And we think that every architect, every designer, drafter, builder, manufacturer, machine user, whoever is in the wood construction industry, whether it's an automated production or still a manual production, they should be interested, and most of them are interested in tools like this that would help them to create what we call a digital twin, and we talk about this in a minute, and prepare a 3D version of the building that's going to be built before actually leaving the office, before actually leaving the desk. So customers that we have range from small log home companies building a couple of buildings a year to larger national, multinational companies building a couple of thousand single or multifamily units, and every shade of gray in between. So we're active in all kinds of material spaces. We do mass timber CLT, we do typical stick framing, we do panelized, we do modular. Not we do, but our customers do. And in our software, they prepare those projects and start working there. This is basically, in a nutshell, again, this workflow. So we talk about design, and by design, we mean you could start as an architect, you could create a floor plan or a basic drawing of a building right here. You could also get a file, which is more typical, a file from an architect, and then add all the information that is needed to prepare the manufacturing and the production of this building here. We'll look a little bit closer into manufacturing and what this means. That typically involves the CNC machine files that we output to those machines to help them to produce, and we run the saws, we run the wall tables, whatever is out there. But it's going a little bit further these days. We have a system, HSB Make, that is basically, we call it an MES, a manufacturing execution system. So it kind of runs the factory from a computer, avoiding shop drawings to be printed and distributed. And you will see a couple of pictures in the next slides where we show you that the workers in the factory will have screens rather than shop drawings. And on those screens, they get the latest representation of the part of the 3D model that they are going to build right now. And then we look into the assembly. What that basically means is we kind of simulate the assembly. We simulate the stacking and the logistics and the truck loading and everything that needs to be done to get the good stuff out of the factory to the actual construction site. I have a 2-minute video here that I would like to share with you and run you through the process in that video. That kind of explains a little bit what we do here. And you will see like a sample process here, but keep in mind that this whole thing is very customizable and very flexible, because we've been talking to 1,001 customers and we have heard 1,001 different ways of building and doing things. So one of the ideas that we continue to pursue is to be very flexible and very customizable in our software. Let me run that video. It's no audio in it, and I'll talk a little bit about it so you see what's going on. We kind of summarize the idea of DFMA, Design for Manufacturing and Assembly, in 7 steps. And it basically starts, I hope the video is running. It's not running. Pardon me. Okay, here we go. It's running slowly because we have this transmission through a LED system. So it's probably a little bit more than 2.5 minutes. Sorry about that. It starts with detailing. And what you see BIM drawing here is basically creating rules. So that's one of the core ideas of the software, is you create rules on how to, in this particular example, frame the corner. And based on the rules, or as we call it in the parametric system, you create a set of rules describing how you want to do things. Then you get your floor plan, and then you simply apply the rules, and the rules automate the framing for you. The rules are connected to a database with all the materials. So once the framing is done and your corners are defined, for example, the bill of materials is automatically created because it comes from the database. Of course, you can manually manipulate things. You can make changes. You can add tiny little details that are not worth to be set in a rule, something that is outside of the regular thing. We're fully BIM compliant, and we talk about this. You get your MEP provider sending you the files for the MEP stuff, and the system automatically, and you saw that, drills the holes and cuts the wood. We create the shop drawings. That's an automated process because all the information is in the 3D model anyway. The shop drawings can, of course, still be printed, but if you take it one step further, you see HSB Make, and you get your shop drawings in an automated way on a screen. We create the CNC data to all the different machines out there and provide a file that's been fed into the machine and tell the machine exactly what to do. You can simulate before you do this on the computer if the machine is able actually to do what you want it to do. That's a picture of a company called Integra, which has been, I must say, our largest customer in the North American market. They've been really going that far. They had a paperless factory, so no shop drawings have been produced there. And then we can also simulate, as I said before, the assembly. So your stacking, your logistics, your truck loading, and everything can be simulated and automated through that system. You still have to assemble it manually. You still have to be on the site. We can't take that part away yet, but we're working on it. So that's just a quick overview on how we do things here and what it means to be in this process. One of the questions that Dave gave me in preparation of this is, why are you doing this, and who is asking for that, and why do we need this? And for us, we try to create a software that takes the architect specifications into a completed construction, into something that you can actually build. And if you think about the architectural files that you get, typically the architect is not really involved into manufacturing and production, and therefore he's not providing all the data and all the information that you need. He would give you his idea. He would give you a vision of what is to be built, and to add all the information that it takes to actually build something. That's exactly our space. That's exactly where we put our software. This building in particular is not daily business for our customers. That's a very specific tower that has been built in Austria by Rubner. It's an observation tower. If you look at the numbers here and if you read the text, you will see that it's an outstanding building which was created in HSBCAD. Still, most of our customers are in the more commercial space, building single-family homes, multi-family units, and all these good things. I'm looking through my notes here that I'm not missing to tell you anything that I wanted to tell you. Another question that I've been asked is it relevant? Why do we need tools like this? And we think it's very relevant because the amount of data that is needed to not only build something, but actually communicate with all the different stakeholders, all the different trades, your suppliers, your machine companies, your employees, your subcontractors. All this information is basically in a 3D model and can be used for communication and synchronization between all those different stakeholders and parties that are involved in the building process. Let me switch to that next slide here, which brings us to the idea, the topic of DFMA. And I just briefly mentioned before, DFMA stands for Design for Manufacturing and Assembly. BIM is another buzzword that's out there, stands for Building Information Modeling. And both of those are not tools. Those are, if you're doing it right, those are processes. Mostly they are concepts. They explain the idea on how you could do things and how to move the industry forward, how to be more competitive, how to deliver better quality, and how to integrate all the different subs and stakeholders into the building process. I go back just 1 minute on more technical details of the software itself. It's a tool that is a plugin, and Dave just mentioned this in his intro. It's a plugin to Revit and AutoCAD, which means you don't have to switch the tools you're used to. You don't have to switch your your workflow. You don't have to relearn a user interface. Basically, when you go from an architectural model to a production model, you can stay in the same software environment. And with our plugin, we just add a few workflows and a few tools and a few features that would allow you to add the information that is needed here. Revit and AutoCAD can't do this. Those tools are meant to be CAD, computer-aided design tools. We're talking about CAM, computer-aided manufacturing, and it's just not the purpose of these tools to provide all the information and details. Of course, you can draw a frame and you can put your nails and your hangers and everything in there manually, but that for sure is not the most efficient way of doing this, and this is where we come into play, plugging into those environments, giving you the features to automate the process based on a rule-based or parametric system. I'm trying to not be boring here. I give you, why does it matter? There's a lot of ideas out there why DFMA is a good thing. Of course, it increases the safety levels for the workers because you don't have to be on site so much. A big factor, and Tegra was clearly on that, and saw that as a big benefit, sustainability and less waste. We had discussions with them and they said it's hundreds of thousands of dollars a year of material that is not wasted on a construction site because you have a much better control of the use of the materials when you do it in an automated way. An automated way not necessarily automatically means that you have to have a huge factory with all the machines in there. It starts really with the design on your computer. It starts when you create the 3D model. Tools like nesting tools, for example, allow you to be more efficient on using the material by just cutting it in a different way rather than without those tools. More efficient use of labor, that's a big thing that everybody talks about these days, the labor shortage. It's really hard to find experienced and educated labor. Um, and the questions that we get from time to time is, okay, what does it mean? You still need labor to do things on a computer, and that's absolutely right. We need the experience from the field. We need the knowledge from the field to kind of translate this, if you will, into computer language and make the best use out of those tools. So when we get the question, and we get this surprisingly often, should I hire the carpenter or the computer geek to run this program? We always answer the carpenter, because you don't need to be a computer geek, but you need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to build a house. You need to know how to work with the materials and how to connect things to kind of build the 3D model or the digital twin, which then allows you to do it in real life based on the data that you have created there. Does that make sense, Dave?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. You know, and Tegra, I mean, they were really humming along, you know, for quite some time. And God bless Jerry McCaughey. I miss him with everything I have, and I will tell you that he swore up and down about your system and the efficiencies and the operation of it. So, you know, the precision. He was all about precision. He was all about reducing costs, obviously, but also how do you do more with less? Right? Less,
Yeah.
there's less workforce. So how do we utilize the workforce we already have?
Yeah,
So makes a lot of
that's
sense.
right. Yeah, and the whole system basically starts with thinking about the process, because if you don't have the process in place, and that's what where Integra clearly stands out, and where they started the whole thing is, if you don't know what you want to do, there's no way of doing it. So that's how we approach customers. From time to time, I get those phone calls from one of our partners at Weinmann or Hundecker or any of the other machine owners saying, "Hey, we have this customer who's ready and willing to buy a machine right now. We're at the airport. He has just purchased the machine. We were talking about software, and he doesn't know anything about software. Can you meet us at the at the Starbucks, and let's talk about software for 20 minutes?" So our clear advice is to really get the process in place, get the software in the house, create your 3D models, create your parametric system, your rules, your database, get your suppliers in a row, and then you can buy the $1 million machine and make best use of it. If you buy it before all that, it'll stand in the corner, look pretty, and cost a lot of money and do nothing. So without the data, and the data comes from the software, without the data, I don't want to say it's worthless, but you don't get a lot out of it. So we always really recommend to get the software at least 6 to 9 months in place before you even think about setting up the machine and using the machine, because you need to work in the software, and you will run into a couple of issues where you probably have to rethink your workflow and have to rethink your framing styles, just because the machine can do better and just because the software can help you doing better. So it's never a one-to-one transfer from what you've done today into what you will do tomorrow in an automated system. There's some work in between, and that's where we start. We work with consulting companies in that field that you might want to use or not, to help you to think about the factory, set up the factory, get the right machines in place, get the right software in place, and of course think about your workflow and set up the workflow. And all this, and that's my favorite slide in many presentations I've done so far, looks a bit complex, but it kind of points out the connection and the relation between a BIM workflow, that's the darker red line, I hope you can see that on your screens, and the drafting center workflow. And what it means, if you start using BIM or DFMA as a method here, in the design, in the second column that you see here, you have a lot of impact. You can do a lot of things. You can make a lot of decisions, and the workflow really goes down towards the end, because everything is discussed, is decided, is detailed, has been done already. If you do it in drafting centric workflow, all that happens a little later. And then you see the blue lines. The light blue line is the cost of design changes. It goes up dramatically the further you get into the process. If you make design changes towards the end, obviously that's more effort, that's a lot more cost. The dark blue line shows you the ability to impact cost and performance. So basically the message is, everything you can do on the computer while you're still at your office, and you can play with different versions and you can simulate things, the more you do in this level, the easier it gets towards the end, because construction gets a lot easier, at the end faster and more cost effective. And a
Yeah.
side effect that we very often see with many of our customers is that the quality of a wall panel, for example, or a roof or floor cassette that's been produced in a controlled environment like a factory, independent from weather, independent from situations on site, the quality is so much better, and the customers definitely do appreciate that.
I have a question based on this slide and really the last slide when you were making a comment about, understanding your data, understanding your build types, understanding what you do before you invest in the automation or the different machinery, even if it's as simple as just a saw, right? A basic saw. Um, Are you saying that when you look at using software such as, HSBCAD, that just going through the process of understanding the software, understanding your data points, everything that you're going to need to do to set up that software is going to help you make more intelligent decisions on how to set up the manufacturing and the production line versus trying to figure it out after the fact and plug and play what maybe you didn't need when you needed something that was more valuable to you?
Absolutely, because you
Wow.
have to question those steps, because the software is, as the way HSBCAD works, and that's true for most of the other softwares out there as well. Those are parametric systems. So instead of drawing the studs and drawing the connectors and drawing your hangers and drawing the OSB or whatever you do, you create rules. You set up in a dialogue system, you set up a bunch of rules that are describing how you want to frame that wall, for example. And those rules are connected to the database with all the material information in it. So you have to think about that and set it up. And by thinking about it, of course, you question the things and you find maybe ways, and you can simulate different ways of doing it in the software before you actually touch the material and go into the cost intense labor and go into the time at the construction site. So we had one customer that was absolutely amazing out in Colorado. They prepared a book, they called it a style guide. So they gave us the book and say, this is what we want to do. Can your software do it? And we were going through the book and said, whoa. How long have you worked on the book? And he said, over a year. So he had a clear idea on what he wanted to do, putting it down on paper, putting it in a book. So for us, and then actually for him using the software, it was very easy, just kind of copying the information from the book and all the thinking that went into it, into the parametric system of the software. And I'm trying to avoid the word automatic, because it's never fully automatic, and everybody knows that. But
Right.
80%, 90% of what he wanted to do based on what he had written down in the book could be done in the software. And there was little tweaking here and there, and then the software was set up to create um, uh, wall panels, in his case, based on the rules that he had thought through, searching for the best and most efficient way of doing it. So that was the perfect example. To be honest with you, Dave, most customers are not that far. He was the one. We liked that a lot, but most customers in the process. And I'm looking at my little notes here, and I'm just at this page where I'm mentioning the consultants again. Ben Hershey from Forward Consulting. We talked
I
about
do.
Mike Schmidt. That's another one. These companies will help you doing this. And they go even further. We with Forward Consulting, and one of their products is ModuCore. That's an ERP system. We just at BCMC just a couple of weeks ago announced a partnership and technical cooperation where the data from our bill of materials, everything that it takes to actually build that house, so the knowledge on cost based on the materials, if you will, can be transferred into their ERP system. And in the ERP system, they use the ERP system to do the estimating, the quoting, supply chain management. So again, we have a connection there where it doesn't stop with the digital twin and your Excel sheet with the bill of materials that tells you that's how much lumber you need. It can go even one step further, and you feed this into a smart system, and that system helps you to, as I said, do the estimating, do the quoting, order your
Right.
stuff, manage your inventory, whatever you want to do at this level.
Yeah,
And
Forward's been a huge supporter of our show for years now,
yeah,
and they've been in the industry forever, and their team's magnificent. I will say that.
yeah.
And I am familiar with ModuCore. I got to. So, really, when we look at your system, Michael, you're almost telling me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's really starting to feel like it's an end-to-end system, which this industry has not really seen much of, because your software is able to plug and play with Revit, Autodesk, right, or AutoCAD. You're able to plug and play with companies like ModuCore, and I'm sure there's other ERP systems out there as well.
Yeah.
Is that really one of the focuses of HSBCAD, is to streamline the entire process, not just what you're doing?
Streamline the entire process, whatever the process is, I must say. Because,
Yep.
and I compare this to our European customers, and Dave, I know you've been over here and you've seen some of them. The depth of what they do is greater than it is in the North American market. To put this in other words, you guys over there have a lot more subcontractors doing different things. Like if
Yeah.
I go to see one of the European customers here, they do a wall framing, like we see it here. They put the MEP in there, right there. In most
Right.
cases in North America, we still have this other company providing the MEP, and they put it in there, typically on site, not so often off site yet. But as a software company, we of course want to know about the MEP. And whenever you get the MEP data from your MEP subcontractor, we want to make sure that it kind of matches the data format that we have. And that's the idea of BIM, building information modeling or management. We put it all together and it kind of works all together. So if the guy puts his sprinkler or his water pipe in the wall, you want to see where it is. You want to see that it does not collide with the stud, or if it does,
Right.
you want to automate the process of drilling a hole right there so he can kind of put it through that hole. And that happens during this process that you see here in the picture. You want to do this in the factory, because if you do it on site, it's always a little bit improvised, and you never know exactly what the cost is and if it's done well and everything. So you want to have this under control. So yes, it's a seamless system, but it integrates all the different other sources of data from the different trades, from the subcontractors that are given to you during that process.
Excellent.
And it sounds complicated, but it's not so much. If you have that book that I mentioned before, if you go write this book that I mentioned before, then the software itself, the learning of the software and the features and the functions, typically we see that done in 2, 3, 4 training days with most of our customers. So if you know what you're doing in terms of building, you will be very easily able to understand and kind of convert and transfer this information into the tools that we're giving you. If you start from scratch, if you have no knowledge in Revit or AutoCAD, if you have never used that kind of software, of course, it's a little harder, but we never or barely really run into that scenario. Typically, there's some knowledge from other tools or AutoCAD or Revit, and we plug into that and we build on top of that. So 2, 3, 4, 5 days of training typically is enough. That does not include the thinking. That's extra, and that's that has to be done on top. But again, in during the training, during the implementation that we do, that the consultants may do, that's part of the process. So, but the learning curve for the software itself is not very steep and can easily be managed in a couple of days.
I want to clarify one thing you said. You said if you know what you're building. When you say that, do you truly understand the costs, the data, the pieces, the parts? That's what you're talking about, right? That's what makes your process simpler versus somebody who doesn't really know how many nails go into their panel.
Correct. And that is a cost factor, of course, and you have to think about how many nails, because in our rules you have to set it up. So you have to think about it before you actually go out there and start doing it. And that's regardless whether you do it automated, like you see in the picture, or if you still do the manufacturing in a manual process. Regardless, you know that in this corner around this window you have that amount of lumber, and that's how the corner works. And those are the Rotoplas hangers or Simpson hangers or MyTech stuff that you're using, and you put 50 nails into that corner. You know that because you set it up in the rules. And if you set it up in the rules and use those rules to frame the building in the digital twin, not in real life yet, but in the digital twin, all the information will go into that model. So if you create your bill of materials for those, 50 walls that you're going to build, down to the last nail, you know exactly how many you will need.
Excellent.
And you have to think about that. That's how you set up the rules. That's how you create that parametric system that we've been talking about. But it's not. It sounds complicated. It sounds like programming. It's actually not. It's a bunch of dialog boxes. So we open the dialog box. We ask you a couple of questions. We give you a couple of options, and you just pick the one that's most suitable for you. And if the answer that you are looking for is not in there, you can put it in there. Same is true for the database. We give you a database that is loaded with all the standard materials out there, windows and doors and lumber sizes and hangers and connectors and whatnot. And if there's something that you use that is a little bit more exotic and you have your own materials purchased or created, or you buy something else, somewhere else, you can always add to the database, or we do it for you if you want us to. So it's an open system that is meant to adapt to your process, because, and I said this earlier, if you talk to a couple of thousand people, you hear a couple of thousand ways of framing a wall, and everybody has a reason why his approach is the best approach.
Right.
So we have to adjust to that and make sure that the software can do that.
Let me ask you a question if I could. So how can building technology, specifically parametric modeling, BIM, how does the entire industry benefit from this type of solution?
If we start with the customer, first of all, the customer would benefit because it becomes more predictable and the quality is higher. And to deliver that more predictable, higher quality building, you either have to go a very long way if you do it on site, or you go to an offsite production, and therefore the whole industry will benefit from that because it gets more cost effective, the quality is higher, and it's faster. You can build more in the same time, and it gets more predictable or reliable in this particular case. So you just think about the fact, I mean, on-site versus off-site weather. You built in Colorado. If you do this off-site, if you do it on-site half a year, you can't do anything. In a factory, you can build your wall panels and you keep them there and you store them there. And when the snow is gone, you go out to the construction site and just assemble it. The building has been done. So we haven't seen a customer going back from starting this process. Nobody has ever done that. It's a learning curve. It's an adaptation. It's a change of workflow. It's a change mostly, and that's the biggest hurdle that we see has to be overcome. It's a change of mindset. Being a builder, you build with a hammer in your hand. That's a different concept right here, regardless of machines. You see here, we have a few Weimer machines here, but still there's manual tables and you can still do it. But on-site versus off-site, that's the big change in mindset. That's the paradigm shift, if you will, that happens right now. And if you come to visit Europe and go to the trade shows and go see some customers, and again, Dave, I know you've seen some of that. For them, it's still common sense to do it that way. And me being in this industry in North America now for the last 10 years, I see it growing. And what impresses me again and again and again, being a European mind, the power behind that. Companies like Integra. If you go to trade shows, I remember when my first ever conference in this industry was the Mass Timber Conference in Portland 10 years ago. 50 geeks in the back room of a hotel thinking about how the world can be changed. If you go attend this conference and trade show today, it's a full-blown conference, full-blown trade show, 150 plus exhibitors, 3,000 whatever attendees in the conference. So the dimension that it gets and the speed that it gets while growing up in North America to me, is really impressive. And it's not a question of whether you go that route or not. It's just a question of when you start doing it, in my opinion.
Sure. Well, let's continue on the presentation. And then I've been taking some notes here. I got questions for you, Michael. So hope you got your seatbelt on.
Yes, sir. I do. HSB Make, and I mentioned this tool, that's the latest and greatest that we have. It's a tool that allows you to take that 3D design, the digital twin that we talked about, into something that can actually be built. And again, of course, it's data driven. So HSB, it's a computer-aided manufacturing system, or MES system. So manufacturing execution system. I have to talk slowly here. So the way it works is, since we have all the information in the digital twin anyway, why not transfer it down into the production facility, onto your shop floor, into your factory, whatever you call it, and create a data stream that runs the machine down there. And the way this technically works is that we create, is another 30-second video that gives you a little impression. So instead of shop drawings, you get a lot of screens down there. And on the screens, and you see that here, we don't have a static printed shop drawing. We have the actual 3D element that comes from the 3D model. So if you want to look at that corner connection, if you want to measure again, if you want to see the material that has been used, if you want to zoom in or just turn it around to see what's happening on the backside, you can do it right there. And the best part of that, it's real time. So it's never outdated. We have customers telling us that the print cost for shop drawings alone can easily be 6 digits a year. And that's the printing cost alone.
Wow.
And then you print it and then you make a change and it's outdated, or you print it and you distribute it and it gets lost or somewhere. So this whole concept of printing shop drawings is a little bit outdated in our mind, and therefore we have the idea of giving you the screen and giving you a live representation. So in the back office of HSB Make, you would have a production supervisor who's kind of assigns this wall has to be built on station number 1 by you, Dave, today. And then you get this picture on your screen and you kind of sign in and you do what needs to be done, including producing the CNC files to run your saw or your wall station or whatever. You sign off, and then the production supervisor would know that this element has been built and it's in storage and it's in this area for storage or on the truck or going to the construction site. You could put a little barcode or even an NFC chip on this element, and then when you download it from the truck, when you unload it from the truck on the construction site, you take your little iPad, you scan the QR code, and in your 3D model, in your representation, you would identify that this wall is this wall in the 3D model, and you know exactly where to put it and how to assemble it and how to put it together. So again, we try to take the data that we already have and not have this cut between, okay, here's your 3D model, and now we go back to print it on paper without any idea of communication. There's no way of changing things. Once it's on paper, it's on paper. If you want to do something else, you have to redo it and print a new piece of paper. And that whole concept goes away. And by using the data for production, you would know exactly, where your elements are, how effective this production line has been running, how many, wall panels have been created on this station by this employee in this group. You know exactly where your project is in terms of production without going back and forth and printing papers or creating Excel sheets or anything. So that would be just a quick overview on how the production supervisor would see that. And of course, all this is very customizable. So we would have to understand your setup, your current setup or your planned setup of the factory first, and then implement a system that would kind of mock up this system, this production system that you're having, and run you through the whole process on the system. And it's here I almost dare to use this word automated, because it really is. It's not a communication going back and forth. Typically, you tell the person on the station what to do. All the information flows there. The people on the shop floor do what they need to do. They sign out of the system, and you, being the production supervisor, know that this wall panel has been built. So it takes the whole process one step further, and it's a what we call a comprehensive data model. So we talked about MEP, for example. You could this is water pipes here. So all the information is really visible in 3D. If this would be real now, you could just use your fingers and turn it around a little bit, or zoom in, zoom out a little bit, just to see all the details that you need to build this. So there's no miscommunication, no wrong interpretation of things. You really get a 3D model, not only on the computer in the office, you get it actually done at the shop floor. Speed and efficiency, of course, it's easy to understand that this improves your speed and efficiency in terms of construction. DFMA as a concept has been used in many projects out there. So if you look a little closer, we had the example of the Theodore Roosevelt Presidential Library in North Dakota, office buildings. A lot of projects these days use the approach of DFMA and start with the design, but not only from an architect's perspective, but also from a manufacturing and productivity perspective. And important is the last point here. It's not only for large scale projects. It's not only for modular. It's not only for boxy designs, is the term that's been used here. Whatever you want to do. We have a company in British Columbia building multi-million-dollar log homes, a few a year. This guy is full DFMA. This guy uses a robot to build log homes. And you would think this is probably the most traditional area in our industry. And it probably is, but he's more advanced than many others, and he clearly sees the benefits in doing it this way. How do I get there? Rethink your process. We talked about this. Talk to the experts and peers in the industry. Get the knowledge, understand what's going on. test the processes on small projects, software first, machines later. We talked about this. We have a bunch of large companies, really nationwide companies building a couple of thousand homes a year. They don't dare to do that, because if they screw up the whole process, the whole workflow, everything is coming to a halt. So what they do is they outsource a small group of people into a startup company, basically. So they give them a green field to play and say, okay, you're not productive yet. What would you do if you would start a company today? How would you do things? And they get to play, and they get a little bit of money, and they get room to make errors and try and find out what the best idea would be for the mother company that then implements it slowly, very slowly. Everybody who is bigger is very careful in that, which again is a benefit for the smaller and medium-sized companies, because you can be more advanced in this. You can start earlier, and maybe this gives you a little competitive advantage over the big guys, because you are faster, you have the better quality, you're more in control. Be brave and invest. It doesn't work without investing into thinking, but also into money. You have to buy machines, you have to buy software, you have to start somewhere. And I mentioned this before. What I've learned as a European in the US: get big or get lost. If you don't start soon, somebody else will do it. And again, I'm impressed and I'm amazed on some of the companies who have who understood that and started already, and what they do there.
I love that saying, get big or get lost. All right.
Yeah, that's a phrase that I've learned over there, Dave. It's
Yeah.
you guys say that. We typically don't, but it fits here. It makes sense.
I love it. First time I've heard it, so let's roll with it. I'm going with it.
Okay, very good. I'll come back to this slide in a minute. Another question, Dave, that you gave me: what sets it apart from the competition? That's a tough one, to be honest, because ultimately all the softwares in that space will, with the exception of HSB Make, that's unique to HSBCAD. We only have that. But in terms of digital twin and design, all the other tools, in all fairness, will probably get you to a very similar result, because they all have the same idea and the same approach, and you use it more or less easy, more or less, fitting your needs and your idea of how to use that kind of software. But ultimately, they will all give you a digital twin. They will all give you your bill of materials and your shop drawings. That's not the big problem these days anymore. So what we try to do, and I tried to think about an example on how to explain this. Being from Germany, being a car guy, what's the better car, the Mercedes or the BMW? And there's no clear answer on that, but there's an answer for you. You are the BMW guy and you have your reasons, or you are the Mercedes guy. Both of them are great cars, technically, quality-wise, very advanced, everything's good. They take you from A to B, but still you make a decision for some reason or the other, because you have a specific idea or a specific requirement onto their product that makes you decide for one or the other product. And that's the same here. So what we do is, with our customers, we never sell out of the box. It's a standard product, so there's no programming that we do for you, but it's highly customizable. So the way we work with our customers is, we listen quite a bit at the beginning. We visit customers. We go see the construction site. We go see the production facility, just to understand your workflow. And based on that, we do a demo, and we do another demo, and we do a third demo, and we do a proof of concept. And only when you feel and when we feel that it's a match, then we will offer you this product. Because once you've made a decision for a product like this, you'll stick to it for the next 10, 15, 20 years. We have customers over in Europe being customers for, Baufritz has been the first customer. They're still a customer for over 35 years now. You don't want to change a system like that. It's a pain to do that. And you don't want to run into that. And we don't want to run into getting those phone calls from our customers telling us, that's not working anymore and we need a different solution here. So we want to make sure that we have a good match. We want to understand you. We want to know who you are. Then we can make you a proposal. Then we can implement and train you. And then with all the updates and every support that we give you throughout the years, you will still have an up-to-date, advanced running system. And of course, and I said this before, we need the feedback from the customers, because only you know what you're going to do the next 5 years. So if you don't tell us, we don't know where to go with the product. Yeah, I'm just looking at my little notes here, but basically, Yeah, we talked about HSB Make. That's the future still. We have, I'd say, two handful of implementations in Europe already. We are working on a few bigger ones in North America right now. So for the next year's conferences and trade shows, we probably have a few cases that we can talk about then. But that's the next big thing, is to take all the information from the digital twin down to the shop floor in a digital way rather than print it on paper and then give it down there. That's the idea.
Excellent. Excellent. And I think I saw on that next slide, you have some big projects that you have worked on here with your software,
Yeah,
like some really famous stuff.
that's actually one of my last slides here, just to give you something to remember in terms of a cool picture. That's the Arc Encounter, which was created by Rocky Mountain Joinery
Yeah,
and Hundecker and a few companies. That's a real life arc, if you will. You see the dimensions right here, and that's the actual thing. Look at the people and look how
that's
small they
beautiful.
are compared. So this thing was completely done in HSBCAD. Again, not one of our typical projects, not what we do or what our customers do every day. But if you want to go that far, you can have a lot of fun with the software and build stuff like this. You see the houses in the left corner. That's more like what most of our people do. But there's a few what we call lighthouse projects, interesting, amazing, exciting projects that customers have done. And this clearly stands out. If you go to a website, there's actually a video from that company and the guy who runs it, talking a little bit about the project and the way he did it, and why HSBCAD was helpful in using it. And when you get a chance to go there and see it live, it is impressive. It is huge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's magnificent. It is magnificent. Listen, Michael, we got a few minutes left here. I have
Yeah,
some questions if you're ready for them.
absolutely.
All right. So let me ask you. I think the biggest question I have is, why is production software still not widely used in the industry? You know, what are you seeing as people's concerns? Is it the investment? Is it not really truly knowing their data? What is your thoughts on that?
I think it's not so much the investment, because it's not that super expensive. Of course, the license costs some money, but it's not crazy. The biggest concern that we run into when we approach potential clients, it's not the clients that come to us. They've thought about it and they're probably a little bit further down the road. But if we approach customers, very often the learning curve of using the software seems to be a big problem, and people don't trust the idea that within a couple of days you can learn doing that. But more than that, and we talked about this before, is the idea of understanding your process and structure your process. If you can't put it on paper, you can't put it in software. So if you're relying on people doing this for 20 years, and you let them do whatever they do on the construction site, and then the project is finished, you have no control. You don't know what's going on. You probably have a good guess on the cost, but you don't have the latest details on that. And putting that concept, that process on paper, that's the biggest issue. Think about it and
Yeah.
make sure that you understand your own process and be able to kind of phrase it in those rules in the parametric system that I've been talking about. That effort and that step seems to be the biggest hurdle. And newer companies that don't have the legacy of, we've been doing timber framing for 35 years. Companies that just started, Integra being one of them, they don't have that legacy. They don't have a concept that they have to translate. They built a concept from scratch, but they built it with tools like this and the machinery in mind. So they have a totally different approach. So that's the biggest hurdle to overcome, I would say.
So let me ask you this. So what would be an immediate benefit? Let's say, all right, Michael, you got me all here jazzed up. I think I know all my data. You know, I try my best to know what I have going on in the manufacturing facility. But what do you think you would say would be an immediate benefit that somebody would see from using, this type of software?
It's clearly the quality and the output of the materials that you create based on that. If you do it offsite, if you still do it on site, that's fine. Then you can have much more control over what's happening on site. Creating your shop drawings, let the people do their job based on those shop drawings. So it's less improvising, less free flowing of ideas and doing things. I've been to a couple of construction sites, and I was really amazed how detailed they know what they're doing, versus some others where I thought, okay, they want to build a house, but it's not clearly laid out in all details, and they basically, to a certain extent, do what they think they want to do. So control over the quality and therefore control over cost, based on the idea of bill of materials and knowing your materials up front. That clearly is, for me, the easiest achievable benefit right away.
Well, heck, listen, I mean, if you know what materials you're buying, what materials you're using, and how you're using it, then you know what your costs are. And that's the important part, right?
Absolutely.
Tracking all that cost plus time and labor and what have you.
Yeah.
So, all right, how about this? I know we talk about, kind of go big or go home type mentality, but there's still the majority out there are still trying to get to that next level or thinking about how they get to the next level. Is this for small manufacturers or builders or only large manufacturers? What if I'm not automated? Do I need to be automated? Can I use this software?
Yeah, you don't need to be automated. And we'd have to make that difference here between automating the shop floor in terms of machinery, or automating the design process. And that's what we're talking about here. So if you automate your design process, think about you have created all the rules, and here comes the next floor plan from the next architect. You don't have to do it manually. You don't have to build those shop drawings again. You don't have to do the calculation. You basically just, quote unquote, apply those rules to the next project, to the next floor plan, and there you go. This is design automation. This has nothing to do with machines and saws and wall stations and all the good stuff. At the end, you start at this level, you automate your design, you gain more control over the quality, you gain more control over the cost. And when you're big enough, you can add, and that's why we are a very modular software. You don't need to buy the export to the $1 million Weinmann machine in the first place. But when you create a model and you have this machine, 2 years down the road, you just add a little piece of software and we translate the information into a CNC file that then can be processed by the machine and in automation on the shop floor. But this level we're talking here is automation of the design process and getting more control over the design.
And people can learn more at this at HSBCAD.academy. I've been flashing it up on the screen there. I'll put it up one more time, right? This is the best place to get the information, get the brochures, get the training.
Yeah, hsbcad.com is the website. HSB Academy is a lot of videos that we have brought up. You've seen one at the beginning. That's the kind of bringing it all together. But there's a bunch of videos going a little deeper, showing you the process on how to do things specifically. That's accessible. You can go there and have a look. And if you want to use it for training, you can do that. You're more than welcome to ask for a trial version of the software. We can assign that to you. You can play yourself, use the videos just to get a hands-on. We can give you a demo just to see if it makes sense for you. And that's what I said about the Mercedes and the BMW. If it doesn't click, then it's probably the wrong tool. So you have to, out of this theory here, you have to see it in real life and kind of feel it a little bit and get a feeling whether this makes sense, and talk to our experts and find out if they understand you well enough, that you trust them well enough to help you to implement this as a tool.
And I think people can see this, and I'm just going to flat out say it, Michael. I mean, your integrity and your honesty is awesome, right? You're not here pushing a product. You're you're talking about a solution that can help others. And just by saying, the sheer fact that, hey, maybe it's not the right solution, it says a whole lot about who you are and the culture of, HSBCAD, that you guys are here to be part of the solution and help people build better, and support them in doing that. So I really do appreciate that. And I want to ask one last question, and this question is just up to you. Did we miss anything? Is there anything that you want to tell everybody out there that I didn't touch on or missed?
Well, I could go on for a couple of hours here, but that's probably not what we all.
You got 30 seconds.
We got 30 seconds. Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Of course not. Again, it's a very individual solution for individual problems or challenges that we might find out there. So we have to look at, and take it case by case, and that's how we do it. It's not an off-the-shelf, out of the box product. We really have to work with you to get that solution up. That's probably the message here. I can only invite people that are interested to just get in touch and experience the whole thing. We've seen a lot in Europe over here. We take this information to the North American market and vice versa. Of course, a lot of good things in terms of speed and dimension happen in the North American market. We are looking into 2025 to introduce Make even more to the market. That we see as the next big thing, if you will. Just take the information from the desk to the shop floor in a digital way and in an automated way, software automation and hardware automation. yeah, that's basically the message. If you feel that a solution like this is something that you want to dive a little deeper into, please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to show you what we have here.
Yeah, Michael, you're definitely on LinkedIn and what have you. So if people want to engage with you, they can do it there, or just go to the website and fill out whatever contact us form, I'm assuming is what would take. So
yeah,
awesome.
I'm just trying to move that slide again. It's not clicking. Okay, that was one more slide with my contact information. But as you said, Dave, I'm on LinkedIn. If you can find me there, or just reach out to Dave. He has my information as well.
Yeah, I was just putting it up there. I still see the arc, but that's okay. Well, listen, just reach out to me, or just look up Michael Marzi, HSBCAD on LinkedIn. You can get a hold of them, or go to their website, or go to their academy page. You can learn more about it. So, Michael, thank you for joining us. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back to you after the outro here. But for the rest of you out there, we're all about building it better. We're all about showcasing the people that can help us build it better. And HSBCAD is one of them. So thank you very much for tuning in. And guess what? It's Monday, Michael. We got 4.5 days to build it better. At least here in the States, you're down to 4 now where you're at. But here we still got 4.5 days to keep at it. So, hey, listen, keep doing what you do out there, because we need you to make housing more affordable, more sustainable for everybody. We need to make housing affordable for our kids. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching. We'll see you Wednesday. Michael, stay right there. I'll come right back to you.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
What an amazing show. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.